Patrick just sent them out. Not sure if everyone got a chance to look at them.
Yeah, sorry about being late on that. Here's a couple. Here's a hard copy. It's my help.
Oh, thank you.
They're not that extensive, but we can quickly skim them over. Then I think the only thing that I can see is that I have an L in my name, Shardul.
All right. OOL.
Yes.
Yeah, besides that one area, this all looks to me good to me. And I would add a period on the last sentence in the first paragraph.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 17th.
I'll second with corrections.
So motion by Amy, second by Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Second, we have the Shell meeting. So we have the Adam.
Yes, sir. Adam St. Martin and Sean Fitzgerald here.
Okay,
And we had-
Adam and Sean, if you guys want to do quick introductions and let you guys take it from there.
Sure. My name's Adam St. Martin. I'm the Director of Operations for South Hadley Electric Light Department. We also operate Fiber Spring, which is a internet service provider for the town of South Hadley.
Yep, and I'm Sean Fitzgerald. First of all, can you guys see me okay?
We can. Yeah, I think your image is frozen. But we know what you look like at the very least.
Oh. Okay. Well, unfortunately, I'm not on fiber. Where I live, I don't have fiber, which is probably the problem. But I'm the general manager for South Hadley Electric, and I've been working on fiber for about 16 years, let's see. Yeah, about 16 years. I started at Westfield, launching Whip City Fiber, and then came over to South Hadley and launched Fiber Spring. And originally it was known as Fibersonic, but we changed the name. And so been involved with fiber for a long time, and happy to be here to answer any questions. I have presentations. I don't know how you want to go about the structure of this meeting. Just let me know, and I can share information however you like it.
Yeah, if you have a presentation, then go ahead. For us in Hadley, as you know, we have Spectrum. And I am a business owner. I know Spectrum does offer fiber to businesses, but I believe they don't offer fiber to residential. So I think the goal is to have it so that it's offered to everybody.
Sure, yeah. Let me see if I can share my screen. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Or looks like it's working on it.
All right.
Nothing yet, Sean.
All right. Well, I'll click stop sharing, and then I'll try it again. You want me to try it again?
Go for it.
All right.
You might want to turn off your camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do that. Can you see anything?
No.
All right, Alex, what is your email?
It is LAMARCHEA@hadleyma.gov.
Okay, I'm going to shoot this to you. Just give me 1 second here.
Yep.
Apologies, we weren't sure if we were presenting or not tonight.
All good. I'm just waiting on the email to come through.
Yep.
Well, that's coming over to Alex. Do you guys have any questions at all that you wanted to kind of start off with while we're waiting to get the presentation up?
I think if you can give us like a general overview of the process or what we should be expecting the process to be, because for us, obviously, this is a new something we've never undertaken, and so trying to understand, what information that if we need to provide, costs, kind of just a general outline of again the whole from the start to finish of how this would ideally take place.
Adam, I can start.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Okay. First of all, Alex, did you get an email?
Not yet. I'm wondering if it went through my spam, my little. No, I haven't got anything yet. No.
All right. Well, while that's happening, I'll give a brief overview that'll hopefully lay out everything you need to think about if you're going to take on this endeavor. In a nutshell, if you want to become a municipal light plant, you may know this already. You have to take 2 votes within a year. The first step in a process to get fiber in your town is to really become a municipal light plant and then evaluate the cost, do a projection of the cost. Now, the projection of the cost to build fiber in your town is dependent on the engineering and design of your town. And we are doing that right now for Long Meadow. So they took the 2 votes to become a municipal light plant. They then worked with us. We provided them a projection of the total cost of their town with a roughly $500,000 engineering packet that we provided to them. And then the final step is for the town to vote. Once you have all of those costs and you have all of the information, then you put it to the town to vote to approve the finances to build a fiber plant. There's a lot of work in between that, but that's in a nutshell the process that it takes to municipalize. There are some towns that are doing it in small pilot sections. So take, for example, West Springfield. West Springfield, it did about 4 fiber hoods, which is roughly 1,000 customers. And they built out a section of that town to see how it would perform. That's one approach. And so because the expense to launch the fiber can be high, some towns will take that phased in approach. In South Hadley, we voted to fund the whole project and build the whole project within 5 years. The main reasons that many of these towns are doing this, it probably like yourselves, is that the large incumbents aren't going fiber to the home. It's a very expensive endeavor. And so often what they're doing is it's called fiber to the node or fiber deep, which means they go only so far. They provide fiber to a certain location, and then the rest is reliant on coax technology. And that's not symmetrical. And eventually the capability of that coax is going to run its course, and it's not going to be able to keep pace with the Internet of Things. As you know, the Internet of Things is expanding. Everything in the home is multiplying each year. And most importantly, the TV content has shifted predominantly to a streaming solution. And because of that shift from traditional cable to purely reliant on streaming, the needs of the homeowner is greater. You need higher bandwidth to push all that data and to not deal with this, right? When you're watching a Patriots game or see packet loss when the game goes black for 30 seconds, which happened to me, by the way, yesterday, and Adam. We live in a town, we won't name the provider, but where we live, it's a big incumbent and they haven't gone deep enough with fiber. So when there's huge traffic, we're losing our content. So the transfer of fiber in the United States is growing so fast. And, there's a lot of towns around you that have already done this or are doing this. And the difference is some of them are seeing private equity firms that come into their town and launch it, or they choose, like Longmeadow, they want to own and operate and control their own plant. And that's the way we are. We own and operate and control Fiber Spring, and we have a say in how we provide service and the quality of that service, really, and the quality of the construction and the quality of the equipment. And so that's really one of the primary drivers for municipals like yourselves to own and control your own plant, your own destiny as far as internet service goes in your town.
And if I could just give a little color on the timeline of this endeavor, right? So Sean had mentioned the year time frame to go through the process to get the 2 votes that you need to become a municipal light plant. Once you've done that step, then you can authorize funds and we can enter in, or you can engage another entity, whoever it might be, if it's us or somebody else, to begin the engineering and design evaluation process. In Hadley, I would say that's probably about a 6 to 8 month process to get, that's a full boots on the ground. So they get out, they GPS every location, every telephone pole that's out there, and they get it. Then they start to do the design from your central office through and establishing fiber hoods throughout your service area and building customer blocks, so to speak. I think the maximum customer block that you put together for an FSA is like 235 customers. So they build out the FSAs. So that's probably, like I was saying, a 6 to 8 month duration of process. Then you got to submit into Eversource and Verizon, I believe, pole applications, because each pole then needs to be evaluated to see if they need to make room for the infrastructure to be hung. And that process can take a little while. So Eversource and or Verizon will go through and evaluate each of the structures and provide you back a cost of what it would take to then execute what they call make ready work. And that's probably the longest pole in the tent process to get through is once they give the evaluation of what it's going to take to do the upgrades necessary to install fiber optic through every pole to every resident, they then begin their process of going through and doing that work. And that's on the third-party pole owners to do that. So Eversource and Verizon, I believe, are joint owners of the poles throughout the town of Hadley. So they will go through likely a 2-year or so process to redo and make the modifications necessary to then allow fiber to come in. Now, during that process, you can start to build out the infrastructure. You can stand up the central office, which is really like the brains of the operation. It's where your fiber optic internet service will meet, so to speak, the World Wide Web. And then from there, everything will proliferate out through the towns. So you can start to develop those types of infrastructures. And once you've got certain areas taken care of, you can start to string wire kind of in lockstep behind Eversource. But it is construction-wise, as Sean had mentioned, for us, it was about a 5-year process. I think if we're dealing in an incumbent territory like you folks are, it's probably going to be that 5 to 7 year process to get built out for the entire town. But as you start to construct and you're passing the fiber hoods and you're passing neighborhoods, you start to turn customers on as you go, and then you continue to build those subscribers throughout the town during the construction process. So you don't have to build the whole thing out before you can start having subscribers, but you have to get a good portion of it started, and then you can start getting subscribers on board throughout the town.
Now, this engineering costs, I think Sean had mentioned $500,000, or is that that was for Long Meadow, I guess.
Correct.
Right.
You guys will be probably a little less than that, Shardul, and that includes the engineering design, the deliverables associated with that, the establishment, submission, and payment values of the pole applications that have to get developed and submitted to both Eversource and Verizon as well. So, that was, Long Meadow was like 490, almost $500,000 to support all of that. They're a little bit bigger territory, I think, than Hadley is. Hadley, although, is pretty spread out, so you guys are geographically a little bit, probably very similar, but, population wise, a little bit less than Long Meadow.
So is it based mostly on, this, I guess, a square miles, or is it based on population, the cost? Meaning, if Long Meadow and Hadley are roughly the same size, even though we're a quarter of the population comparatively, but are we looking at roughly the same cost just because we are this land area is that large?
Right. So you're looking at similar costs if it's similar geographic area for what we call the distribution side of it, where you're going to need to get the fiber counts out to the fiber hoods. You guys would have less fiber hoods than Long Meadow would. So the build out and services to each of the houses would be less costly because you don't have to purchase as much or as many fiber distribution cabinets, MSTs, and then fiber drops and installations to the houses. So that cost, hey, there you go, Sean. That cost would be less compared to like Long Meadow. And in the CO itself, you guys wouldn't need as much head-end equipment as Long Meadow would, since they need a certain number of pieces of equipment in order to support that level of subscribers. So there are some similar costs, but there are some differences based upon the fact that you guys are about 50% of the subscribers compared to Long Meadow.
We do have a higher density of commercial, so that
Yep.
is, so that that's, and those services are probably going to be on the higher bandwidths also. So that's that's a plus, I guess.
Yeah.
But we should probably estimate that $400,000-$500,000 based on.
It's probably not a bad benchmark to start with, and it could be fine tuned, so to speak. But the key is that you look to get authorization to cover that effort. And I can't recall if all of those commercial entities up at the, kind of the north end there are overhead or underground. Your underground costs tend to be a little bit higher than overground. And I think Long Meadow is about a 60-40 split overhead to underground. But your underground costs obviously are a little bit higher for construction than overhead costs are.
Right, so you're saying like around where the mall is and with
Yeah.
that area. I do believe it is all underground.
Right. So those customers would look to get fed in that same vein as they are currently fed with electric and fiber optic or cable.
Alex, sorry that has the Long Meadow title. If you could scroll to the second page, that would be a great start.
Right here?
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. So if you want, I could briefly take you through this presentation. If I could just tell you next slide when I get through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So in a nutshell, who are we? We're a municipal light plant, 115 years of service. We serve about 8,000 electric customers, about 4,000 internet customers, about another 1,400 phone customers. Next slide, please, Alex. Oops. Yeah, so, yeah, that's right. Perfect. So we are partnered with Hoyle Gas and Electric. That's why you see their logo on the right-hand side. This is an important distinction for you to think about, because when we're competing with others, even municipal light plants who do this work, Hoyle Gas and Electric's transport layer wholesale network operations investment is second to none in the region. They're basically a networking powerhouse. They have aggregate internet capacity, 130 gig. Actually, I think that's grown since this slide's been put up.
Yep.
Up to 400 gig, I think we're at now, Adam. I'm not sure.
That's correct. Yep.
That's correct. Yep. You have ring protection. You have network defense mitigation platforms. HG&E provides about 11,000 residential subscribers, 300 business subscribers. They're serving 75 community anchor institutions. And the thing is, the reason that Shell partnered with them is we are a full turnkey solution. So we provide everything, the installation to the home, the billing, the customer service, the project management, the design, the engineering, everything, soup to nuts. The one component that HG&E does for us, and we pay them, is they provide the network monitoring in the wholesale component to the fiber internet service provider business, which is a very important piece of it. And the best thing I could tell you is that when you hire someone like us, you get two municipal light plants working as one, basically $100 million departments working on your behalf with entire divisions behind us. Next slide, please.
And you can get in your vehicle, drive down and come see us if you need to talk to us.
Yes. And you can go to our board meetings. If you have an issue, you can come and speak to our boards direct. These are just the communities. There's 17 communities, 4 counties. If you look, you'll see Leverett, Shutesbury, and South Hadley. Those are the municipal light plants that we are serving right now that Shell and HG&E work together to provide full integrated internet service provider and telephone services. We've been providing those services for several years now. We just renewed with Shutesbury. We started out with a 3-year contract. Their board voted to continue on with us. And an important note of distinction that we acquired those, we took those contracts from somebody else. They had a previous provider. They were not completely satisfied. We came in, we presented, and they've been satisfied since. So that was a great acquisition for us. All right, next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of the fiber network that HG&E, that transport layer that I was talking about. And you can see South Hadley up at the top. We are connected through Chicopee, and Chicopee, of course, has fiber. HG&E has a lot of points of presence throughout this ring. Each of us go directly to Springfield, to the POP, the point of presence, on 1 Federal Street. There's actually 2 sites there, one that's a backup. But from there, you can get connected to pretty much anybody. And one good thing about the municipal light plant design is we're agnostic, right? Let's say you have a contract with us for 3 to 5 years and you're dissatisfied. Well, you own the plant. You can now go hire another ISP to provide your service. Our view is that we have to earn your business each and every year and continue to earn it and perform at a high level so that you do not get dissatisfied and that you continue to work with us. Next slide, please, Alex. Just to reiterate what I already said, these are the things we can provide to you. Full turnkey solution, project management, design and pull applications, materials, procurement management, engineering, construction, marketing campaigns, customer service, sales, billing, collections, home and business installations, network management, 24/7, 365 technical support and emergency response, lifeline access to eligible customers. We do E-rate providers services for our customers, A lot of the schools are on the E-rates. We register your IP addresses, and we provide Wi-Fi 6 router technology. Next slide. This is just really a snapshot of what you get, right? Fiber to the home. This is an aerial demonstration diagram. It goes fiber all the way to the pole, fiber all the way to the home, and it attaches to a network interface device that sits on the outside of your home that then connects to an optical network terminal somewhere in your house, centralized, and then that connects to your Wi-Fi router. And this is a basic snapshot of what every home that we serve pretty much in South Hadley looks like to some extent. That's the basic install. And the difference, the major difference here I want to point out is that when you talk about these big providers, right, that say, oh, they're providing fiber to a location, but they're not going what we call the last mile, which is that final section to get to your home. That is still, in many cases, most cases, reliant on copper coax. That means it can't be symmetrical in upload and download speeds, and that means that it will never be at the performance level, in our opinion, that fiber can be at. Fiber is infinitely scalable. So that fiber cable, they don't know what the scale is. It's the equipment. So once you put that fiber in, you can replace the equipment and just keep growing your bandwidth. So the reason the Europe nations and everybody in the country are going to fiber is because the scalability of it will be future-proof. That's the bottom line. Next slide, please. This is just an example of our customer satisfaction surveys. We do a survey 1 week after install, 3 months after install, 12 months after install. And the green lines are, the answers. Basically, we're pretty much in the 98 percentile for satisfaction for all of our customers. And we survey customers everywhere we do an install. So we've had great results. And we kind of give what you call white glove service. We're not like the big providers where we've got to do 5 installs in a day. We typically schedule 1 or 2, and I tell our techs to spend as much time as you need working with the customer, educating them, connecting them to their streaming services. So customers seem to like that very much. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so just some notable achievements about us to be aware of. We are a designated eligible telecommunications carrier from the Department of Telecommunications and Cable. We've been nationally recognized as a fiber network operator, certification from the Broadband Association, which recognizes operators for their commitment to ensuring that customers receive the most reliable broadband services. And we've built out all public areas of South Hadley under budget and ahead of schedule. And we actually have a take rate now that is exceeding 53% in 5 years. So we have successfully taken, over 50% market share against a large incumbent in a short time. Next slide, please. And these are just testimonials. This is the chairman of the board of the Leverett Municipal Light Plant who switched services to us, to Sheld, in December of 2022. And what they liked is the personal attention we gave to issues, and they see the personal attention and flexibility since the transition. So we've been meeting their needs. Marjorie McInnes is the manager there. We work with her regularly. We have regular checkup meetings to make sure we're performing and providing the services that they need. Next slide. And Shrewsbury. Gail Huntress is the municipal light plant manager of Shrewsbury.net. Gail is very knowledgeable about fiber. She oversaw the construction in their town. What she said here is basically we've been their provider since 2021, that we're professional, knowledgeable. We care about the quality of their work, from the linemen to the engineers to the billing and customer service. And we understand the need to control costs, but we also provide superior customer service. So we've had a great relationship with both of these municipal light plants, and we've been able to, in our opinion, improve the quality of service that they had previous. Next slide, please. And just a summary. So we have, Shell has a reputation for reliability. We have received 6 years consecutive of American Public Power highest standards of reliability. We provide redundancy, strong customer support. Between HG&E and South Hadley Electric, we have 80 years of knowledge combined in telecommunications. We have big staffs now for telecom. We have a strong understanding of the municipal light plant rules, regulations. We have extensive pole application experience. We have fiber to the premise experience from the beginning to the end, total solution. We have strong project management experience, 25 plus years of fiber industry experience between us of constructing. And, we've constructed our own town, right? So we know what we're doing. We know how to perform this construction. We know what are the best methodologies. And HG&E is a great partner. I think that might be it. Is that the last slide, Alex? That's the last slide. Very good. So that's all I had. Just a brief summary of what we do and what we can provide. And happy to answer any questions, more questions.
So
I have one.
I have a few too.
go ahead.
Let's go first.
You go first.
Okay. All right. Just one technical question. So I know South Hadley works with the town already, with all the town buildings, or at least majority of them at the moment. Is there any? I believe Adams mentioned this before. Is there any way to use some of the same infrastructure to get the ball rolling for when the time comes to do it?
Is that MBI? Are you using MBI fibers, Adam, or are you leasing dark fibers? I think we're leasing, right?
We're leasing fibers that service really just the Hadley Fire Department at this point, Alex. Although we were in talks, a little bit earlier about seeing if there was a way that we could support Kyle and the chief and kind of bring a more comprehensive solution to establish kind of a local area network for the municipal buildings out there in Hadley. Whether or not that was, I don't know if infrastructure is in place to support that currently or not, but we've got a dark fiber lease that it ties into Hadley FD just outside the building there. So we're leasing cable from, I think it's MBI right at this point.
And I know, and it was in the plan. The Cody's on the call too. From Kimley Horn, but there is fiber on Route 9. That's dark still, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's yes. I believe that's all dark fiber through there.
I think MBI is going through your town as well, right, Adam? MBI is there.
And 5 college networks too, I think, right?
Yeah,
probably both.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be opportunity. However, there can be limitations when you're leasing fiber, and it can be expensive. And so there, to answer your question, you may be able to. It may be a challenge, and we don't know what the capacity of those lines are. We'd have to look into it. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Those are my questions. I think Shardul had a question.
So Hadley would be responsible to install the infrastructure. That's correct?
Well, you would basically Hadley.
The cost, I should say. The cost.
Yeah, the cost. So the most critical decision you need to make is, do you want to take the risk to invest in the construction to own your own plant? And if the answer is yes, then typically what you're going to do is hire someone like us to construct that for you. So really, it's all about financial risk for you.
Right. And what is like, what is the cost? Of,
Yeah.
What are we looking in terms of dollars? Like what?
Sure. Let me give you some perspective. So South Hadley cost us $16 million to construct almost 7,000 passings, right? So around 6,000 something passings. Long Meadow, we've estimated will be more expensive. It will be between 26 to 30 million, depending on how many customers you connect. And the difference maker is that we own our own poles. So we didn't have to pay for expensive make-ready work. So in order to string fiber in your town, we're going to have to pay your utility provider to make ready those poles, get the space needed to attach to those poles, and that can be upwards of $2,000 a pole. But let me just give you a ballpark. It can be anywhere from the number I gave you for South Hadley of 15 million to a number as high as 30 million. Now, the key is for you to remember that eventually this project should pay you back. At some point, you're earning revenue enough to pay your debt service. And then when you cash flow positive on this project, now you're making enough cash flow above your debt service to have some net revenue. We've been able to have a positive position because of our situation, because we own the poles. Now, a town like yourself, or let's say Long Meadow, it's going to take more years. And all hinges on the take rate. So if your take rate is 70 or 80%, then you're great. Then you're earning a significant amount of revenue. We are earning about 54% take rate right now, and we foresee that growing and growing, likely to the 60, 70 percentile in the next 4 years.
So are we have to pay a rent or lease or payment for those poles?
Yeah, there's pole attachment fees. They're not terribly expensive. Adam, I don't know if you want to say anything.
One-time cost, Shardul. It's a one-time cost to.
The one-time cost.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
not, but not, what are the ongoing costs?
Sure.
Nothing on the poles, right? Nothing on the poles.
I'll take that. So the way it works is, so we're your ISP. Let's say you charge your customer $90 or $80. You have to pay for all the services that we provide. So let's call that $27, $28, $30, right? So the difference between that $27 to $28 and the $90 that you charge is yours to keep. That is yours to keep to pay your debt service. That is yours to pay any other costs that you incur. That $27 or that $30 that we keep is to pay for our network operation, wholesale costs. It's to pay for our trucks, our technicians, our help desk, our customer service, our billing. So that's your per subscriber cost, and that's the ongoing cost. And to separate that, you have your construction cost that you have to pay to build the plant that you're going to own.
What about capital costs for repairs and maintenance and all of those things?
Yeah, so we would call your repair and maintenance operating costs, we would call your capital cost the initial construction cost. There is going to be some cost associated with, okay, you get a pole strike, you have to send crews out to repair that line. You'll get a bill from us if it's above and beyond normal day-to-day maintenance.
I guess the question is that we're purchasing equipment and fiber optic lines and things like that. If, let's say, somebody takes out multiple poles are damaged for some reason,
yeah,
and there's a section of fiber optic lines that are damaged that need to be spliced back in or whatever, we're responsible for those costs, right?
Yes, that's correct. And that's happened, right? So both the towns we support, they've gotten hit with major storms. We then dispatch our crews. We have an hourly rate that's written into the contract for, a truck. And then we have the cost of the poles and the wires. And then we send a bill. Now, most of these projects will have a depreciation account where they allocate funds to pay for those kinds of costs as they go down the road. In some instances, insurance may cover some of these costs. We know that in one of the towns, they've gone back to the insurer and they've paid for replacement of some of those sections.
Is that depreciation reserve or whatever account? Is that a percentage of the? What should we allocate for that? Is it based on the service costs, or is it something that is there a rule of thumb? I'm just trying to understand, because we're going to have to put together a pro forma for the town based on all of these these costs, and so we want to make sure, especially with a small town like Hadley, we have 5,000 residents, 5,300 residents. So our margin of error is very, very, we don't have that scale that, let's say, South Hadley or Longmeadow has, because you have 10,000 plus 15, 20,000 people. We have 5,000 people. So
Right.
our budgeting and the costs aren't going to be that different, it seems like. So from our standpoint, we have to go and make sure that when we go and run these numbers, that we're not going to, it's not going to be something that we're going to be funding for a long period of time, because let's say even if we get 50% over the next 5 years, that's only maybe 2,500 residents, which is, when you go and do the incremental revenue, it's a lot less than 50% of South Hadley or Longmeadow.
Well, it's not too far off from us. I mean, we have 8,000 electric customers. Again, we had about 6,000 plus passings. But you're right. So the answer is we can provide that. We do all the performers. We did all the performers for Longmeadow. We've done them for a couple of towns. We consider ourselves highly accurate because we've validated these costs through our own construction. The percentage, I don't know off the top of my head. My financial manager does, and I can get those to you. But I will tell you that we have a pro forma that can analyze every cost that you're going to expect to incur for the most part. And fiber typically doesn't, once you put it up, it's rare that it goes down. We do 1/4-inch steel strand lashed, which is very strong on the pole. And not a lot of cable companies do that. Most of them just put up ADSS that sags, and when it goes down, it goes down. But it's a percentage. I don't know what that percentage is. We can provide that to you. I can follow up with those estimates.
And let's say we talked about a residential service fee of $80. Now, do you have a pricing tier for commercial? Is it based on bandwidth, or is it based on what's your, I guess, how do you go and base that off of?
Yes, we base it on size. We go in and look at the size of a commercial user and how many users are going to be using the bandwidth. There's different rates. I think it goes as low as almost 99 to 149 to upwards of 400, depending on the size of the entity using the fiber. We can, creating the pricing is dependent on how much return you want, and also what the market is going to bear for you. So, for example, a $70 1 gig price is what I call a price disruptor. Nobody's offering that. That's a rarity that exists only in the municipal light plant space. The pricing that you see for full gigs is usually at $100 if you try and buy it from a large incumbent. They might entice you initially with a 12-month offer, but typically a full gig is around 100. And but setting your price will be contingent on what your goals are for your financial gain, right? So we have a spreadsheet where if you change it from 80 to 90, it'll change your cash flow, it'll change your payback in years. So this is all part of the analysis that we work with you to develop. We've been doing this with our project managers at Long Meadow, and ultimately you decide based on what your goals are.
Also, do you provide telephone service? So if somebody wants home telephone as part of their
Yes.
ISP, that
Yes.
you do. Okay.
I think it's $19.99.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
there's-
you do offer telephone. So
Yes.
We got a
And
local
then-
plan and an international plan, but the pricing's two different pricing structures there. But yes, it's voice over the top. They can take their number with them, transfer it over to the new system.
and for the billing, we're gonna be, so they're gonna get a bill from Hadley Fiber. So is there we're responsible for that billing system, or do you provide that, or how does that work?
Yes, we provide that. So for example, I'll give you Shutesbury.net. All the bills that we produce for Shutesbury.net go out with the Shutesbury.net logo on it. So, but we're doing the work of billing that customer and collecting, but it'll have Hadley, whatever you want to call yourself, it will put it on there. And so, yes, we do all of that work. So when I say turnkey, we basically manage everything for you for that per subscriber fee.
So that whatever that $30 is, that's
Yeah.
included in there. And then
Right.
and then the disbursements from those accounts, how does that, is it monthly, is it quarterly, how does that work?
Yeah. So I believe the way it works is, so we collect the total fee from, I'll give you an example from Shutesbury. I just keep using them. So let's say they're charging their customer $70. We collect the $70. We in turn cut a check back to you monthly for what's called your MLP fee. So your MLP fee is the difference between our fee and your fee for charging purposes. And so you're getting the difference. So let's call it $40 or $50. You're getting that money back from us to your account.
So that's the net. You're going to be providing the net of
Yep.
of your expenses.
Correct.
And then if there are any troubleshooting, truck rolls, things along those lines that need to happen, those would get invoiced separately from the MLP disbursement.
Okay, so repairs and things like that are invoiced separately.
Correct. Yep.
Correct.
And if there's somebody has a problem with their bill, they call you.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes, unless you want to give them your cell phone number, Shardul. We'll take
I'm going to
it.
give Alex.
Smart. I like that. That's smart. Yeah, no, we've got, Sean mentioned 24/7, 365 customer service. When you call the shop during business hours, you get one of the three people that are in our office there to talk to, and we work to a resolution. A lot of what we do in South Hadley is managed services. So we have all of our routers, ONTs and NIDs, everything that Sean had mentioned at the house is all accessible through our Calyx cloud process and through Calyx. They're all Calyx components. So we can do a lot of troubleshooting online and try to get the resolution. But if you choose to go with a different router, we can only see up to a certain point. That may drive more truck rolls, but most times we're dispatching individuals same day, if not next day, out to go resolve issues. So
with that, let's say that fee that you take out, are there any other reoccurring fees that we have to think about? Obviously there's some level of, there's a depreciation account that we're going to be able to manage, that we have to go and allocate and set up internally in Hadley. But other than the money that you're collecting and the net, what else should we be thinking about in terms of costs that ongoing costs going forward?
Yeah, the most significant ongoing cost that we see is increases to bandwidth, right? So every so frequently, the growth of demand is still staggering to us. We have to pay for example, we went from 100 gig circuits to 400 gig circuits of what HG&E provides to us. Well, there's a cost associated with that. So that upscale of increased bandwidth, we have to pay a fee associated with that for our pro rata share of that.
Right.
So if that makes sense to you,
But
network
is
costs.
But that's not, is that a one-time fee or is that an ongoing fee?
That's an ongoing fee. So now we can structure our deal. So let's say we do a 3-year deal, right? Or we do a 5-year deal. We set that fee that we're charging you, we'll call it whatever, $30, $27. But the end of the 3-year or 5-year contract, those costs are likely to increase, and we're going to therefore have to increase those costs in the next contract period. Now, it may not be significant, but it's all dependent on your usage. If your town usage goes through the roof and we need to get more bandwidth for you, we have to charge for the costs associated with that bandwidth. Now, it hasn't been exorbitant. It hasn't been excessive. We've managed it quite well. One of the advantages we have is our size. We're not a giant 200,000 subscriber network, right? We're like HG&E's got maybe what, at best, 14,000 subscribers or 20,000 tops. Our size actually helps us when it comes to bandwidth consumption.
So I'm just trying to understand that bandwidth, because we're going to be charging a set fee.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're going to be charging a fee for that. But you're saying
Correct.
that fee might increase irrespective of whatever fee we're collecting.
No, think of it this way. So once we lock into a price for you for a contract period, we're going to honor that price.
Right.
However,
even if there's an increase in bandwidth.
yes, that's how we've managed it so far.
Right.
And-
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to.
Yes, but I'll tell you this, like I just went through this, right? So I had to increase the cost of the contract by a percentage. I won't share that percentage, but with one of my towns, we had to increase because the cost went up. But we present that to you, and you can decide whether to stay with us or go shop it around. But I guess what I'm trying to manage your expectations is that over the duration of 3, 5, 10 years, you're going to ultimately see cost increases, primarily in the bandwidth, in the network costs. That's where the expensive stuff is. And some of the other costs that might incur are equipment costs. So
Right.
You might start with a Wi-Fi 6 router, and they come out with a Wi-Fi 7 or 8, and you want to increase your bandwidth consumption in the home. So that can be another cost that the MLP incurs. Like we have another MLP right now, Adam, right? That's contemplating swapping out all of their routers and paying
Yeah.
for that.
Well, that's
Correct,
a
yeah.
capital. But that's
That's
like
a capital. That's right.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
that's a capital account. But I guess
So that-
so with that, based on what you said, so your contract length is, let's say, 3 years, right?
Yeah. Well, we can
So
make
do-
it whatever length you want.
But more than likely, we're going to have to coincide our customer contract length with that, so that any increases we're going to be able to go and pass on.
Yeah.
a certain-
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a risk on our side, right? And I'll give an example. There's a competitor out there is Westfield G&E. They're doing the same thing with Whip City Fiber, and they're doing 10-year deals, right? And so they have to calculate, can we provide this service for 10 years at this fee? And they may, in year 7, 8, start losing money, or 6 even, So the duration of the contract is for us to calculate, and for our risk. So if we say we can provide it to you for $30 and we do a 7 to 10 year deal, well, we've got an agreement and we've got to provide that. If the cost goes up and we're losing money, that's our risk.
Now, customer contract length, what's typically, what are you, what in your practice, what are you seeing?
So right now I have a 3-year, 5-year. We're seeing 10-year deals. So it all depends on what your preference is.
No, like the individual
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah, so we don't have contracts with the individual residents.
Customers. Yeah, no contract.
So, we've opted in South Hadley. We don't do a contract. We don't do an installation fee. We don't charge rental fees for anything. But those are all considerations that you as a task force and eventually as a board will decide how you want to structure your fee with your residents and your fiber network. But we do not do a contract. We do contracts with commercial customers. In the case of Hadley Fire, like we have to do dark fiber contract leases. So those are specific terms. So some commercial customers we do put into contracts, but for the most part, the residents, no contracts.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking of the MLP contract.
No,
Apologies.
no. As you can tell, I'm the business guy.
Yeah, for sure. Good questions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I have a question. So originally I was thinking that, because I did know that we did do the fiber for the municipalities, in the first thought, I was thinking that we could start with Route 9 and bring them up and then bring in some income and then move it on out and doing it in phases. But Shardul mentioned how he's on Route 9. I'm at the bank. I'm on Route 9. We already have fiber through the cable company. So what is there a good selling point? Would you have a good selling point to a business like Shardul's or myself to say why would most likely would you be able to bring on a lot of these businesses on Route 9 that already have it?
Yeah, I would say it this way, that the difference between us and a large corporation that's providing your service now is the local support and the local crews. So if you had to, let's just say all things equal, right? If you're getting a full gig at your business, and then we come in and say, we can provide you a full gig, what's the difference? The difference is we're right down the street. We're a local provider and we are a fast responder. And the quality of our fiber, if it's green build to your business, it's likely going to be superior. Now, I would ask them if your fiber is symmetrical, because your upload and downloads likely in most of these companies is not. It's usually you get a decent download, but your upload is usually less than 5 megabits per second. So true fiber all the way to your business that is not riding on coax anywhere is symmetrical. And if you're getting a service, like I said, fiber to the node or fiber deep, where they say, okay, we have fiber to this location and it's riding on coax all the way to your business. Well, that's not symmetrical and that's not true fiber. And down the road, as the bandwidth grows, that type of design at some point in the next 5-10 years is going to run its course. It's not going to keep pace with a fiber to the premise, which is fiber all the way to your business. So that's the major difference. But if we're going right now head to head and they're providing the same bandwidth, then it's the local commitment and the local service.
Probably more competitive price too at that point. I would
And
say,
the price, right.
as well.
Yeah. I think prices and probably, and like you said, the local service dealing, like we have 3 hotels, so we have pretty substantial services, and we do
Mhm.
we do everything. Our telephone, internet, and our television is everything is through there.
Mhm.
But dealing with Charter is very painful. Spectrum, extremely painful.
Right. You're not getting a bot when you call us. And if you need to, you call us on our cell phone and we get someone there. And that happens all the time. And we're okay with it. I mean, we're small enough to do it. Again, our size benefits us. We
Mhm.
don't have 1 million subscribers or 2 million. We've got 4,000. So we're growing, but we're able to scale and we're able to provide quality service even at this level.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I mean, I'm gonna probably watch this whole thing again, and I might have more questions after that, but um,
Okay, so a question would be, I know that, I did look at, Long Meadow. They had done a report at one point. Can you tell me the difference between you and Go Net Speed or some of the other companies?
Sure. Yeah. So GoNet Speed is what I call private equity money, right? So they come in and let's say they have $100 million, which I think is what they had, and they construct all over the place where they can. Um, we were The thing is about them is that you don't have control or say of where they're going to construct. So they might come into your town and construct a section of your town and then say, well, we don't want to finish the town. So you're left with a section that they now operate. So one thing you got to be careful of is control. You have no control, no say, no ownership. And they own it. They maintain the revenue. So they're really like a private Comcast, or Charter. That's what they are. And I would argue that their service is not our service. Our quality of service is, in my opinion, the gold standard. And it's the gold standard because we're a municipal light plant that really is focused and geared on local support, local crews. We're your neighbors. We all live here within 5 to 10 miles of you. And so that's the difference.
Yeah. The fiber connection would be very similar. So the infrastructure that they'd install is similar. Their construction techniques, however, would be different than what we would recommend. Sean had mentioned the 1/4-inch steel messenger strand that we then lash the fiber onto makes, it's really built for the New England weather. A lot of the folks that are doing these installations, the private equity teams that Sean had mentioned, they come up and they slap the ADSS up, and that tends not to be the best selection. It's a cheaper option, but not necessarily as resilient for some of these New England weathers. So,
And most of these private equity, they're there to sell out. So their end goal is not to be there forever.
You guys have no control over pricing on that either. So pricing does just what you currently experience. It stays here. You lock in for 2 years, and then it adjusts up. It just keeps climbing. And so,
because they're planning to exit.
Right.
That's their goal, is to create some large volume of whatever, and then sell out to somebody else.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that I've been dealing with several towns in this region, doing meetings like this for about 8 years, actually longer, maybe 15 years. 4 or 5 of these towns have called me up because they made the decision to not do their own, and they're regretting it because now they're dealing with, they only came and did this little honey hole section of town. They got revenue. Now they pulled up and they're gone.
right.
And also they didn't like the way they constructed. They didn't like the quality of service. They can't get a hold of somebody. So those are the complaints that I hear. And, I won't get into specific towns, but there's been some real bad experiences recently.
And plus, if we were to municipalize too, like they said, we'd be able to control everything. We'd have our own oversight, our own. We set our own rates.
Mhm.
As long as Shell gets their $30 or however much it is, it's ours.
Yeah, but that's the problem, right? Is that's a big ask. It's a you're building a utility, you're building a distribution network,
Right.
and it's a 50 to 100 year investment. And this is a long game for a town like Hadley where you can sell this and retain your taxpayer. People will move to your town because you have fiber or because you offer fiber.
Now, speaking of all that, do we know there's an effect on homeowner, or what is it?
Yes.
Resale value?
Real estate values, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Broadband Institute, they referenced, I think, $4,000 to $5,000 in home value increase. If you look at the Broadband Institute, what they equate the value of a home with fiber. And I say true fiber, not fiber to the node riding over coax
Right.
for 2
Right.
miles. Fiber directly to the home, into the home.
We do get calls from customers that are interested in moving into South Hadley when they want to talk a little bit about the electric service. But one of their questions is also, you guys offer fiber in this area, so it
Yeah.
is something that's on the forefront of a lot of folks' mind when they're making decisions, and it does have that benefit of increasing your resale value on property.
And then like maybe. Do you know of any communities that make like marketing materials that they give like maybe real estate agents or anyone that does home buying services?
Well, we have realtors that are already doing that on their own. So our realtors, I think the plant's been great at it. They actually put it when they sell a house, it's in the sale prospectus. They put it in there.
Right.
So many realtors are using it as a tool to close and sell on the home.
Hmm. And then another thing too, we're getting some more. So it was last annual town meeting where they approved the two senior housing overlays or new housing overlays. How would that work? Because I know when we first started initially talking about this, that wasn't a thing up until last May.
I'm sorry. You're talking about new development?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, new development, what I would say is that if you're not approved to build fiber, that you encourage them to put an extra conduit, so that when it is time to run fiber, it's an easy run. We do micro duct in conduit. Fiber is small, and so we use very small orange micro duct. But if there's an extra conduit, excuse me, that's a home run. Because then, especially in an underground area, you want to encourage your developers to put in an extra conduit for fiber if you can.
I think they mentioned something about that in our plan too, about a bylaw for that. Do you know of any communities that are doing something like that where they make it required for new developments to put these types of things in?
I haven't been engaged heavily on that side of things. I'm sure it's happening. It pushes costs on the developer. They may push back on it, but if you make it in your bylaw that it's requirement to have extra conduit, I mean, that's a wise choice in my opinion.
Okay.
Most developers, it's the incremental cost of putting a conduit is nothing. So
Right.
it's just a prudent thing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
Any electrician is gonna advise you to go and put extra conduit anyway. Meaning we've done enough development that we do it anyway. You're always putting extra capacity just because if you're gonna put in for whether it's electrical or data or whatever, you're always going to have extra in there.
That's
So
great.
there's a good chance. There's a good chance that the new developers that could be coming in are going to do it anyways. I know you have a development coming up to Shardul.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when we do things, and most developers will go and put extra conduit for electrical and for data, just because if you're going to be putting in chargers or solar or something else, you always want to have that extra capacity.
So when you say that we need the 2 votes within a year, 2 votes, votes of who? The town, like town meeting votes?
Yes, town meeting votes. So I can provide you the language that I provided to Long Meadow. It's a basic question. Do you want the town to authorize to become a municipal light plant? And I have the language that we got from an attorney. Basically, there's no cost to it. There's no risk associated. You might as well do it. It just says, okay, we can now become our own municipal light plant in the eyes of state law.
So that doesn't hurt us by doing that. That just gets us into it so we can start looking at it to see if it makes sense for our town.
Yeah, really
So-
what it does is it positions you should you choose to proceed. So it makes sense if you're thinking about this to do it anyways, and then you have the authority from your town to become a municipal light plant, which then allows you to own and operate your own plant, mostly to own it. We would operate it for you if you just chose to go forward, but it doesn't cost you anything to put that on the ballot, and I think it's a wise choice.
Oh, does it have to go, does it have to be a ballot vote, or can it be just a town meeting vote?
I can't remember. I think it can be a town meeting vote. It depends on your bylaws. I'd have to check. Let me get back to you on that. I'll get you an answer.
We'll probably have to talk to our legal,
Yeah.
town. It's probably something that we have to go and ensure that our whatever our town bylaws,
Right.
they have to coincide with that. Whether it's a town meeting or town ballot or both,
Right.
or whatever.
Right. But I'll verify that as soon as I can, also on my side.
Yeah, we'll reach out to town
Yeah.
council for us, just because if we are creating, because it would be creating a new enterprise entity
Right.
within the town.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
and
when
as
it comes
Sean
to-
mentioned, becoming the MLP doesn't commit you to then the next step of construction. That's still subsequent decisions to be made along the way, and then
Right.
subsequent votes for funding those as well.
So when you going back to the engineering costs, you said 400 to 500,000. Is prior to that, is there like a feasibility study? Like what is the first? We have to write somebody a check. What is that? What is that check? How much is that check, and what is that check for? Or what is that check for, and how much?
Yeah, good question. So let me answer it this way. So we've done this for a couple of towns. You don't have to cut a check to us until it's time for us to really provide some engineering and design work for you. The financial pro forma, the analysis that we can provide, that we've provided to others, we do that as part of our development costs, so that we benefit from you making this decision to choose to work with us. So we therefore invest some time, some effort into developing that pro forma for you. So once we know how many poles you have and how much underground and aerial you have, we can then do a pretty accurate summary of what we think the cost will be to construct in your town. Then from there, once we do the actual walkout, we walk out to every pole and we analyze the cost of the actual footage, the actual cost to do a full construction in your town. Then we refine those costs. So we start out with a preliminary pro forma based on GIS data. Then we get an actual refinement when we know exactly how many feet and how many poles and everything that we need to know. And then that's when you need to cut a check, when it's time to do the engineering and design.
So do we have to go and first engage you and like send a letter of, letter of intent or letter of understanding, or how does it?
Yeah, we can provide you with a proposal. So what we would do is I'd send you a letter and I'd say, here's a proposal for the cost for engineering and design. We're going to do that based on, I'm going to have my engineer download your poles, your wires. We're going to know exactly what the GIS data says for your town. And then we're going to evaluate what we think we could do this for cost.
But you just said the pro forma and the initial study, that's something you would just do, prior to the us writing a check, or that's why I'm trying to understand what's like the phase one of this feasibility. Like, what is there a cost associated with it?
So let me answer it this way. I likely won't commit resources and staff until I know you're really serious about going forward, because for us to invest, our staff to provide you a financial pro forma, you have to even be getting a municipal light plant vote together. So it's all kind of a timing issue. We really want to know, like, is Hadley really going to go through with this or not? That's kind of we could do it, right? But many times we've had this happen a couple of times where towns just drop us. We do all this work and then they walk away. I'm willing to commit. I just need to know, is this really going to go forward or not? Is it just kicking tires at this point, or is the appetite there? Is there a champion? Is there a drive? Is there a lot of, I guess, legitimate desire to do this? And it sounds like there is.
Yeah. And
No,
sure, I don't think
desire. It's just a matter of we don't want to go and commit to something that's not going to be financially feasible, viable. That's the big thing. The small scale of Hadley, even though we do have pretty substantial number of businesses, each one of those businesses are big. Like Walmart is big, but that's a single service, right? That's going into that building. They're not, even though they might have a 80,000 square. Home Depot has an 80,000 square foot building, but it's still one service going into that building. So it just has to make financial sense, because that's still one bill that we're going to be collecting, even though it's a big company.
Yeah, we can provide a preliminary pro forma based on GIS data. The accuracy won't be there until we get an engineering and design study done.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we just want to know, are we even in
ballpark?
Is this even in a ballpark? Again, 5,300, we have 5,300 residents.
Yeah.
We don't have 5,300 businesses, So in other words, it's not like we're going to have 10,000 possible counts.
Right. Right. So yeah. So let me digest that and get back to you on that. I'll talk to my financial manager. I'll see what it takes to do something like that.
Okay.
But again, as Sean had mentioned, there's no downside to you folks in the town taking the steps now to move forward with the MLP process, right? To start to have that first vote, to get that second vote lined up. There's financially, that's not a significant commitment on your end, and it doesn't beholden you guys to anything. What it does do is, it gives us a level of confidence that the town is really, really interested in moving forward with this.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy lift. I think
Right.
that the question that's going to be asked in town meeting or by other people is that, what is this going to, the number one question is, what is this going to cost?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, well, how are we going to make money? And Hadley has kind of been gun shy about going into new endeavors and with the promise of making money. So
Char Duel, I was at a talk in Northampton last year where the Shutesbury MLP manager gave a presentation on how they started it and how it's going now, or at least up until that last year. At that point, I can always send you that slideshow presentation if that's helpful to you.
I think I always want to, those comparisons are good to understanding. I always want to know what's our, we're not Shutesbury, we're Hadley, and I just want to know what's, we can only compare what's going to happen to us with what we have here, because we are different. Shutesbury, I don't know them geographically or their level of service, based on what we're going to need compared to what they're going to need in terms of bandwidth, equipment, all of that stuff. It's probably going to be on a different scale than what they have.
But I don't think it's a terrible idea to reach out, and I would encourage you to reach out to some of the other general managers, that have been through and been going through this process, just to get some perspective on it too, Shardul.
I think it's probably going to make. I'm all for it. I'm a believer of, you want to have the data to back it up. Your especially when it's public money, when you're doing all this stuff. So if we have pro formas, we have other information to say, okay, this is kind of a viable venture, then it makes our job easier to sell this to everybody else.
Yeah. One of the big struggles in municipal light plant like this, trying to build a telecom network, is there are no guarantees in our government municipal light plant construct. Select boards, etc. They're looking for guarantees, and they struggle with this because I've been through this multiple times. You go to a board and they're like, well, are you guaranteeing we're going to make money? And I can't guarantee you that. I can tell you this is the cost that we believe it's going to take. If you get this take rate, we believe you're going to make this kind of money. But it's definitely a challenge. And you're right. Until they get to that financial vote and they have the financial data to make their decision, it's tough. You got to get that. So we can put together a pro forma based on GIS data. You're not very much different than us in size. You're not very much different than Longmeadow in size. I would argue that Hadley, Longmeadow, and South Hadley have a very similar footprint, with one exception. Hadley has much more retail and commercial customers all up and down Route 9. I mean, you just have a significant amount of commercial.
Right. It's just, when we do get to that profitability, it's gonna take a few years, and then there's carrying costs because you're gonna have debt payments and all of those things we all need to factor in once we're going in to a town meeting, so that everybody understands that, okay, years 1 through 4, we're gonna, this is our annual deficit is for this enterprise is this X, Y, and Z, and then year 4 is when we break even, and year 5 is when we start making money, and so on and so forth. It just has to be, in my eyes, and I think in a lot of people's, and I think in this committee's eyes, that it's got to be something that is pretty transparent in terms of what people see, and they see what the downsides, and it could take us 6 years to reach profitability because of the take rate wasn't as fast as we expected. So we need to give are that all of those scenarios to the town and the townspeople so that they understand. I think I know that in terms of quality of service, it's a tremendous improvement of what most people have in Hadley, and it's going to be, as you said, it's going to future proof, this town and really improve everything. Get customer service, speed of repairs. You guys check all the boxes, I think.
Yeah, we just did this for Long Meadow, exactly what you're talking about. We did the debt service, we did the years of payback, we went through the whole thing, just like you're describing. It took about a year to get there. We did a preliminary, just like we're talking about, and then we did a refinement after the engineering design, and we provide them everything, every detail financially for them to decide upon.
Great. Yeah.
So we can do this.
And just to get almost all the towns you're working with are going out to bond or going out to get debt, correct? They're no town's gonna upfront all the money unless they have a lot of free cash on hand.
Yeah, no one's got that.
Nobody's doing that.
Nobody's doing that.
The Hadley's definitely not doing that.
Yeah. Even us, we bonded.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. When you're borrowing at 3%, your borrowing rate is 3%. You borrow it as much as you can.
Yeah, millions of dollars. I mean, it gets really tricky, and you get balloon payments at the end, and it's there's a lot to it.
Well, this has all been great. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Like I said, this has been incredibly fulfilling in terms of all my questions and a lot of the unknowns that I had in terms of going into this. Seems like you guys are again very impressed with everything that you guys are bringing to the table and your experience. So I truly appreciate your time doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. And we're excited. Fiber is great. If you get it, we have unsolicited customers praising us and recommending us. It's awesome. Great.
It's great.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, have a good night. Thank you again.
All right.
Thanks,
have a great night. Talk to you soon.
I will
care.
be in touch.
All right.
Yep.
Take care.
Okay. It's exactly what I expected, because I did only hear great things about
Right.
them and everything I've been reading. And so it's exactly what I expected to hear.
Now, my question as finance committee chair, how do you think a project like this would go about with our current situation right now?
I think it's going to be different because this would be a debt exclusion. It's a capital item and you're talking debt exclusion down the road.
Right.
So it's going to be completely separated.
So you'd be comfortable with us doing this project as finance committee chair?
Yeah. Well, everybody you talk to, what's in it for them? Because you're talking to a lot of people who are not happy with Comcast or Charter
Spectrum.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's happy with that. People are frustrated with them, at least a lot of residents, even a lot of businesses. And so if you're going to tell someone, you know what, you don't have to deal with them anymore, you can get it quicker. I mean, it's faster and it's cheaper.
And Patrick didn't have anything.
Right.
So everyone likes the idea of it. Now, how much is it going to cost someone? When you're doing the override was different because that is a permanent thing. This is a debt exclusion. It would be much different, and it would be much different in cost to the people. And it's not, it would be a different thing. It would be something that we've done in the past for debt exclusion.
Okay.
But I don't think, I think there's a benefit to the residents. So there's something in it for them that they would want this. It's not, unfortunately, the override, yes, there's benefits, but I mean, this is something that is you know, a little bit bigger. There's a huge benefit to you considering you don't have anything.
Well, yeah, and I'm not the only one.
No, yeah.
But I'm wondering, can you get, because of the project that you did for that, is there
Mhm.
grant money out there?
I think it set us up for grant money. I think that's something we'd have to dig deep a little more into. Unfortunately, for the grant that we got for it, we can't use that grant for fiber build outs. That's the one conduit of that.
Oh, it said no, huh?
They said that, yeah, that we're not allowed to do any fiber build out to that grant. But with that grant, we could fund, new computers for the library, new computers for the COA, all that stuff. But I think that this document sets us up because now we have data to back up what we have. And when I compare different communities, more people per capita in Hadley took the survey than in other communities. We're very comparable. So 200 surveys we got in Hadley is very, very, very significant. It means we are very, very, very serious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good.
What are you thinking, Shardul, for timeline? Do you think we should try to go for the Springtown meeting, or you think it's not, we won't be ready for that?
I think it's a non-binding vote, meaning we should just go for it in the spring because it doesn't bind us to anything. It's a procedural kind of, thing just to at least really just start the process and also show interest. So because I don't think they're going to do anything unless they at a minimum see that got voted forward. First thing we need to figure out is whether or not it's just a simple town meeting, or if we need to go to, or it could be just a select board, vote, or it could be a ballot. But we need to determine that first pretty quickly, and then from there we should just move forward. And again, as long as we presented that this is a non-binding vote, that it's not going to go and say that we have to go and do this. It's just this is the beginning steps to creating this entity if we choose to move forward in the future.
Okay.
Should I go ahead and just talk to Jennifer and say we want to get on the select board agenda at some point?
Yeah, I think I would reach out to Jennifer and I would tell her that we need to first determine the correct process of whether it's a warrant. We have to put it on the warrant and get it on there, and then or if it needs to be on the ballot, which means it probably needs to be on the warrant, then it needs to go on the ballot, and then it needs to get voted or whatever. However, whatever the process is, let's just figure that out. But let's just get it. Why don't you work on talking to her, and then just we maybe reach out to the people about how these initiatives are worded, so that we have something that we can put on whatever ballot or warrant or whatever it is.
Yeah, we could, I think Long Meadow is just a town, so they might have town meeting. We could reach out and find out,
Mhm.
how did they do it? Did they do it a ballot or did they do town meeting?
I think
Right.
it depends on us. I would just reach
Oh,
out
you
to town. Our
That's
town
what
reach out.
council.
Okay, so if you want to reach out to town council, are you gonna ask Mike Mason and then
I'll probably ask Mike
Jennifer.
Mason.
and then to get
Yeah.
permission?
Yeah.
I
Um,
would just reach out to our council because, our rules might be different or whatever, just so that we're very clear on how this needs to get done. Whether Jennifer or Mike or whoever, let's just reach out, get that answer, get the process, get the wording, and then get it on the ballot for May, for Springtown meeting.
So why don't I just reach out to town council first, get what we need to get done, then reach out to Jennifer, get on the select board.
Yeah.
We'll process that legal counsel recommend and go on with that.
and it sounds
Yeah.
like they have the wording for you,
Yeah,
for what goes on some of the other stuff. So they could give you some wording
yeah.
Right.
for the warrant.
definitely. Okay, so I'll do that. And then
Yeah, I think
one,
from there, then it should move, pretty linearly in terms of how they set up the process, where they go and do their initial proposals and pro formas, and then we probably present, to the select board, and if it's viable, if it looks like it's a viable thing, and then we have to put together kind of a cash flow and debt analysis and all that other stuff, so that when we go to, let's say, the town a year from now, then we can go and say, this is what it's going to cost, and this is what, so on and so forth, so that we have a clearer picture on how things are going to move forward.
okay,
But they said it's a 5 to 7 year process, so it's going to be a while.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then in that time period, I'm guessing there's good, because we are a rural community. I know for broadband, there's a lot of different pots at federally and state-wise that we can probably leverage to get, maybe offset some of these costs going forward. I know USDA, all these other places. I know they have different pots of money that we might be able to tap into.
Okay,
But yeah, let's get this started. It looks like it's makes a lot of sense for us to really push this forward. And yeah, looks like our next meeting is little under a month from now. Looks like February 9th.
I did it the second Monday. Hold on. Yeah, I did it for like the second Monday.
So yeah, sounds good.
What should we? So I get my obviously my project is to reach out to council, get the town meeting language and get that stuff straight away and have that as a deliverable ready to go for then. Should that be the sole topic of
Oh, for the agenda?
yeah, or
Yeah.
are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really don't see any other outstanding questions that we have. So let's just get that, get the wording and everything done for that next meeting, so that it's ready to go to the different committees to get on the Springtown meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions or concerns for me before I go on this in Denver?
No, I think it's great. I think we need to start somewhere, and that's where we need to start. And I think that until we can actually get the numbers, as of right now, I'm not seeing any reason why this isn't gonna be positive numbers
Right.
and a good thing for our town. So I definitely think it's worth looking into, and we won't know until we look into it.
Right. Yeah.
So we need to start somewhere, and this isn't gonna cost us anything by asking questions, getting it started on the warrant. So we need to at least get the basics done and start. We will never know until we start.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
I think we need to get going, and that will bring some great positive energy to the town. So
Mhm.
it will be a good thing.
Yeah. And yeah.
All right. Well, it was a
Hey.
pretty good and informative meeting. Like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second by
Second.
Motion by Alex, second by Amy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.